What's up, everybody? Welcome to the CanesInSight podcast powered by Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Happy Friday. We are taped today. I am actually hosting the University of Miami Sports Institute's 16th annual Student Leadership Conference, so I'm out of the picture. We want to make sure we got you covered with a fresh episode of The Bank, the latest I am hearing in recruiting. Also going to go over some official visitors this weekend. Loaded weekend as usual. We'll go over some of the new names, guys we haven't talked about a ton. First, I want to talk about some folks that we talk about a lot with good reason. That's Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, you could be entitled to significant compensation. Dial 1-800-747-FREE, 1-800-747-3733. Take back control of your life with Anijar and Levine. Pete, hop in here.
How you doing, dude? We got a kind of a hybrid episode today, a bank visitor preview. Kind of, I don't want to say resetting the board. The board is pretty set in very important positions for Miami. But after some of these official visits, they jump to conclusions as to where Miami is at certain spots. And it looks like the Canes staff, the coaches are understanding, yes, there are going to be commitments now, but you look down the line and there seems to be some confidence with some important prospects.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is going to be a long process. So there's different timelines. Some guys, Jackson Campbell, I'm pretty sure that one's done and it was a big one. Some of these other ones might go for a while. Some of them might not. It's hard to tell. But I want to just give an update on the latest I'm hearing, Pete. Yesterday we talked about Vance Spafford canceling his visit to Miami. That took everybody by surprise. I think Georgia expected him to go to Miami and at that point probably flip to Miami. Miami expected him to take the visit and potentially flip at that time. But it looks like, at least for now, he says he's sick. He needs to prepare for the 5-star challenge, so he's not going to be able to visit Miami. We'll see. I think big picture, talking to people, this is the business of recruiting. I'll leave it at that. And Miami really likes Vance Spafford. The guy's extremely talented, fast, productive slot receiver. They look to bring him in. As of now, we're recording this Thursday late night. No clarity on the situation as far as whether he will visit or not. Again, it was reported he's canceling it, but that's not necessarily a done deal. We've seen these situations before. Miami is working through it, and they love Vance Spafford, so they'd love to get a shot at him here this weekend. We'll see how that one plays out. But I know you were referring to Tristan Keys and Calvin Russell. That's been the big topic. And I was surprised talking to people. There's still a lot of confidence with those two, the Tristan Keys and Calvin Russell, that even if Calvin Russell goes against the LSU here coming up, Tristan Keys, kind of a roller coaster recruitment. I know Alabama kind of cut ties with Tristan Keys just because they were like, all right, we're not going to be part of this. And my view of it, that we talked to the kid, very smart, extremely charismatic, great player. I would take him in a heartbeat. I don't think this is a situation where there's a character issue or something you don't want to be a part of. But it is, this kind of recruiting is not for everybody. But I'll tell you who it is for. Is Mario Cristobal. He has no problem getting in there, battling, and taking it to the end. So I think that was going to be a long process. But I got confidence that Miami could get one or both of these guys when it's all said and done. And Miami has a good season, which that needs to be part of the equation, at least for Russell, because I think he'll probably – my bet is he'll commit to LSU here coming up, but not impossible that Miami gets in there before July 5th. So we'll see. But again, I was taken aback. I thought it was going to be more negative tone on those two. And it's not. I think Miami just needs to keep chipping away and doing what they do. But using not all bad, Pete.
It seems like, if you want to look at a positive, though, that Derek Cooper, who at the running back spot, Chaminade, local product, Miami's really focusing, not that they aren't focusing their attention on these other guys we're talking about, but it seems like that one is starting to, I'm not going to say it's done, but I think Miami really feels good about where they're at there.
5-star running back, 6'1", 205, probably 210. I mean, I've seen this guy looks like the Predator, 10.7 speed, and this is an elite player. This is the kind of guy that Miami's been losing to the Ohio States, to the Georgias, to the Alabamas, and they're trying to end that. Texas also involved with Derek Cooper. Florida State took their shot, but I think this is one where Miami is trending, and there's a lot of confidence that Miami's going to get this one done if they do. This is a top of the board type offensive prospect, best player in South Florida, certainly best prospect in South Florida. You got to get this one done if you're Miami. And it seems like they are going to be able to get that one done, but it's not a done deal. Obviously, I like this. Talking about all the recruitments, I feel good about this one. I feel good about where it's going. It just makes a lot of sense between how much we prioritize him, the fit. He's getting negative recruited like crazy. Other schools, you saw with Jackson Canwell, they negatively recruit Miami hard. But with Cooper, I mean, what can you say? We're going to have the best offensive line. We have the number 5 running game in the country, yards per carry. This guy runs a 10-7, put him behind our offensive line. Those 20, 30-yard runs we had last year become 60, 70-yard runs. Perfect fit. I like where it's trending. I feel good about the Derek Cooper recruitment. The interesting part, Pete, is that other running back. So Javian Mallory, West Boca, committed to the University of Miami, took a visit to Alabama, and, talking to people, that was not something that they love to see, right? I mean, it's one thing if like a Cooper's taking his visits, he's not committed. Mallory's a South Florida guy, West Boca, that committed and now flirting with Alabama out of nowhere. I think Miami's kind of the position that, hey, love Mallory, love the player. South Florida guys can't treat us like, hey, you're committing and you're visiting all these other schools. You look around, we're going to be looking around. Brought in Jay Lamar from Moultrie, Georgia last week. A lot of interest from Jay Lamar for Miami. So we'll see. Mallory's visiting this weekend, but I didn't get the impression that the storm had blown over and Mallory's just going to visit this weekend. It's all going to be good. That could be how it plays out. But Jay Lamar has a lot of interest, So I think the only thing I feel good about with this running back class is that Derek Cooper, I think they're going to get that one done. I don't know that for a fact, but I like the way it's lining up. It'd be a catastrophe if it doesn't go Miami's way, but I think that one's going to line up. So the other one we'll see is going to be Cooper and Lamar. Is going to be Cooper and Mallory, or are they going to, go in a whole different direction? I don't know. We'll see, but that's one to watch. But I think Cooper is kind of the key name at the running back position.
Let's talk about another skill position, tight end. So there's a couple guys that Miami seem to be trending with right now. We've talked a lot about Israel Briggs in recent episodes here. We'll get to him in just a second, but Zachary Turner, we've talked about him as a potential mismatch, not your traditional inline tight end. Elijah Lofton, someone that you reference in the bank that you wrote up here on the website. Again, this is all available for free on CanesInsight.com. So Zachary Turner, talk about him a little bit, and Miami's not only their interest in him, but I think he's kind of a name that's floated a bit under the radar. So what is it about him that kind of has you reigniting his name here in this latest edition of the bank?
Yeah, we love this guy. We talked about him on the show, both of us. 6'2", 226. I mean, he's not light, but he's very much a receiver. We talked about him on the show, played his film from Duncanville, Texas. That's where Keelan Russell, 5-star, went to Alabama, was going to play a freshman here as a quarterback. Decorian Moore, who went to Oregon, I think he's probably going to be the next Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith, not necessarily that good, but that type of freshman guy that everybody talks about for Oregon this year. So a loaded team. But this guy was one of the best players on that team. He's a tight end, receiver, kind of like an Elijah Lofton. That's the internal comparison, but more, more big play receiver type than necessarily, leaner. It was Lofton's a big guy, 240, like a running back. But Turner's a really, really good receiver. I mean, you see him here, hands catch, gets upfield, splits the safeties. This is big time football, guys. This is not intramurals. This is big time Texas football, and this guy's making big time plays. Southern Methodist, which is the local school being in Dallas, Texas, made a big run, and Miami was kind of like, hey, that's going to be a tough visit to withstand because they're going to throw the kitchen sink at him. But it looks like Miami's impression has stuck, and that Miami is trending for a Zachary Turner. And if Miami can get this one done, it's not a done deal, but you see him break tackles here. This is one of the best football players, at least according to the internal evaluation, and quite frankly, what we're looking at here, Pete. And we were talking about this guy for months. This is one of the best pure football players in the class. And I'm a huge fan there. You see him blocking. He's tough. Lofton's not the same kind of player. They're both shorter tight ends with versatility. But, Lofton, I think they both were number 9 from what I could see. This guy's more of a receiver, I think, than Lofton, at least as far as running and with speed, right? I mean, look at the speed on this guy. This guy can really, really run. Lofton can run too, but I think this guy's a little faster. Lofton probably a little stronger. I love this guy. And I was talking to somebody about him, and the anecdote was very interesting. It was an anecdote actually about Elijah Lofton. And when Miami had Jeremiah Smith being, when he was being recruited, JoJo Trader, all those guys, they would ask him, hey, who's the best player you guys played against? You guys played against everybody. And Jeremiah Smith was like, listen, man, the guy we played for, Bishop Gorman, that's the best player by far. There's no number two. And then the other guys agreed. Obviously, that turned out well. I mean, we'll see how Lofton plays this year, but I think he's the best player on the team. With this guy, Turner, they were talking to guys in Texas about who's the best guy around, who's the best guy you played against, talking to coaches on that Duncanville staff, who, again, these guys had the best players in the country last year. Everybody is saying, this is the guy you need. SMU's trying to keep him home. I think Miami's going to have a chance to bring that one in.
And then Israel Briggs, of course, Miami's been trending in a very positive direction there for a few weeks, it seems like.
Top 10 tight end in the country. I believe he's a top 75 player overall, at least on 247. Super athletic. We talked about this guy a bunch. LSU, Miami, he commits next Tuesday. I think Miami gets it done and brings in Izzy Briggs, which would be a top 100 player to add to the haul here. It was going to be a very good top 10 recruiting class, potentially higher.
The national predictions for Tyron Evans at wide receiver starting to come in from Miami, a guy that we've talked about here for a couple weeks, really, and someone that decommitted from Tennessee, and Miami has wanted pretty badly here.
Yeah, I mean, this is somebody that, it's like Russell comes on the visit, LSU buzz, Tristan Keys visiting Tennessee, all that stuff going on. And there's a question about, is Miami kind of moving on to other targets? Tyron Evans at that time decommits from Tennessee. How's that whole thing work? I can tell you this. Tyron Evans was a major target regardless of what happens to anybody else. Calvin Russell and Tristan Keys can call up and commit tomorrow. We're still taking Tyron Evans. He's a major priority for the staff. He was a priority for Tennessee. It was not a drop situation. Miami really put the pressure on after the official visit. Tennessee tried to hold on. Miami's able to pull him out of there. Looks like it's going to happen here for the Canes. I like Miami to get Tyron Evans, 6'3", 200 pounds. Heard he looked incredible on his visit just from a physical standpoint. He's listed at like 185, but he's legit on the scale, 200 right now. 27 yards per catch, 14 touchdowns in pretty good competition there in Charlotte. I know someone has raised the question about his competition yesterday in the chat, but his competition is very, very good, both on the field and then in practice. He goes against Samar Matthews, the corner Miami's battling Texas for. That Miami thinks is one of the best players in the country, period. And Evans wins his fair share of battles in that one. So this is a guy Miami loves. That Tennessee loves. That'd be a head-to-head battle with Tennessee. I think Miami's going to win that one.
Let's get to the trenches. A couple names that Canes fans are very familiar with have been on campus recently. Breck Kaloje at offensive line, IMG, and then James Johnson, defensive tackle out of Miami Northwestern.
Yeah, I'm going to kick Kaloje to you in a second, because I know you have information on that one. But basically, with these guys, Kaloje visiting USC midweek and then going to visit Tennessee at the end of the week, those should wrap his visits up. But we thought Georgia might wrap his visits up last week. James Johnson was scheduled to visit Syracuse. He's originally from New Jersey, I believe from Patterson, New Jersey, I want to say. Same place as Fran Brown. But to cancel his visit to Syracuse, goes with Texas. I think Miami feels very good about where they're at with both of these players right now. USC is a big money school right now. They're paying a ton for high school kids. So Texas always pays a lot. Tennessee pays. So is Miami. It's not like, it's whining. It's the fact that, hey, these are dangerous schools on a visit. But going in, Miami is the favorite for both of those guys. And I know you talked to some people about Kaloje in particular.
Yeah, I would echo what you've said on him. And I think that after his visit, there was an understanding that he would go through his process, when we've talked about it on the show. But Miami has remained not only in contact with him, but pretty consistently confident, not in a cocky way, but just understanding that there's no surprises in how he's handled this. So I think that they believe that they're in a good spot.
Yep, I think they got a great chance at both of these guys and major priorities. But look, it's recruiting. You go on those visits. And I'll give you an example here. Keyshawn Stansel, another defensive tackle, who I talked to him after his visit to Miami. I mean, he sounded like he was ready to commit right there from Raleigh, North Carolina. Raleigh. I've screwed this up every show. He sounded like he's ready to commit to Miami after his visit. He then goes to Clemson, closer to home, has a great visit there. Now it looks like I would say Clemson is leading Miami on the outside looking in for Keyshawn Stan. So it'd be a shame. He visited unofficially, major target, a lot of time spent recruiting him, but that's recruiting defensive tackles in the Southeast. You win some, you lose some. I think that one probably go to Clemson, is my guess.
So another one that Miami's battling Clemson with, Blake Stewart in the defensive backfield.
Top of the board type prospect. Miami loves this guy from Atlanta. Visited twice unofficially. We visited him in Atlanta. He visited officially last weekend. He already visited Clemson. Now he goes to Michigan. I think this is a classic guy that Michigan and Clemson get. That kind of low 4-star with great character, great athleticism that they develop into a first-round pick. That's the impression I get from this guy, and I'm not surprised that you're looking at a Michigan and Clemson, high character schools, high athletic trait schools, and guys that go pro and have success. But I think Miami can win this one. Miami had a great visit. Communication remains good. It's a battle. This is not like a done deal, but I think Miami's a great shot to win it. But it's a battle. You got Michigan this weekend. That's another one, another potential monkey wrench. But Miami loves Blake Stewart, and the feeling is mutual. That's one I think the Canes have to win, given the amount of visits both ways.
You say in the bank that you expect Miami to flip linebacker J.J. Edwards from Orlando, who's committed to Rutgers right now.
Yep, Rutgers commit. Rutgers doesn't like their guys visiting. He committed to Rutgers, and he visited Miami right away. This is a guy Miami's really wanted since spring. He had a great spring. We watched him last one of these shows this week where we watched his spring highlights, and I know you were really impressed, Pete, getting off blocks, sideline to sideline, pass coverage. I mean, he looked like a real linebacker from Orlando. Edgewater. What's the thing on the shirt? The water?
Says the water, yeah.
So, they got the cool uniforms, a traditional program there in Central Florida. 6'1" officially. I think he weighed 195 at the Under Armour camp, which is a little light, but he's got a big body. I think he'll be 200 plus by the time he might already be 200 plus, certainly by the time he gets to Miami. But he ran a 4.57 40. So you're talking about speed. This guy's got it. The spring highlights are great. Rutgers really good at evaluating these kind of guys. They got on him early, but it looks like Miami's going to be able to get this one done, and they're excited about it. This is not like a backup playing kind of linebacker. This is a guy that once they saw him in person, once they saw the testing, they wanted to add him. I think you'll see him come to Miami. He'll be 6'1". He could be as much as 205, 210, running 4.5. So and then knowing how to play linebacker on top of that, so that works. And I think Heatherman's big on testing and traits, and I share that approach. I think you got to get guys with testing and the ability to run. They got to be football players too, but when you have guys with good testing, you're looking at a smaller pool, and then you just got to watch film and see if they can play. And if they check both of those boxes, those are the guys you got to get. Those are the guys that go pro.
You note that the Canes will put a full court press on Jason Lopez, local star football, basketball player. We've been a big fan of his for a while on this show, and you say that he's a big priority for Coach Cristobal.
Yeah, I use that basketball analogy by accident, but obviously this guy's a 2-sport player. I know you talked about the basketball part being a big part of his recruitment. We'll see how that goes. He's a point guard, very productive player. I'd love for him to play basketball for the Canes. I think he could help us. But just to me, the best receiver in South Florida. I saw him at the camp. Under Armour camp, which had all the guys there. He was the best receiver there by far. I thought on the field he had like 1,300 yards or something insane for Chaminade. I mean, Jeremiah Smith type production, different body, obviously, different prospect. But he plays multiple sports at a high level, high level basketball player, Pete, as you know. He's incredibly productive at a major school, and not just like makes a few plays. Like, I mean, it's not normal to have that many yards at Chaminade unless your name is Jeremiah Smith. It's not that normal to have that many yards anywhere. I mean, you're talking about, 1,200, 1,300 yards. Got to pull up the exact numbers, but he was balling. And then at camps, he's the best guy by far. So you check all those boxes. I think this is somebody who I'd be shocked if he's not a 1,000-yard receiver in the college level. Just depends on health. But I would be very disappointed if the Canes can't get this one done. I think they will get this one done, because I just know Mario is obsessed with this guy and really wants to get him. The basketball's a potential complication, but I think when you get him in the building, and I pulled up the stats, 1,222 yards, 16 touchdowns. I mean, 73 catches in high school with other good players. You got to get this guy. You've got to get Jason Lopez, and I think Mario is going to really press hard on this one.
Someone not visiting this weekend, defensive end Jaquez Wilkes, due to a family health issue.
Yeah, nothing to worry about here. So we've talked about, and I think 247's also talked about, there's a lot of confidence in Jaquez Wilkes. He's from Wadley, Alabama. This is not Miami country, but he visited in spring. We visited him in spring also. There's a lot of hope he can get this one done. He's a really talented player. I think Auburn's recruiting him as an actual middle linebacker. But when you watch him play a defensive end, he has that ability as well. And I think for us, that's where we like him as an edge rusher. But you see him playing running back. I mean, this guy's a super athlete, just a really talented guy. And I think Miami would love to land this guy. It's a legitimate family health issue. Not even bad news, actually, but just something that he has to attend to. And Miami knows and encourage him to attend to what he needs to attend to. And they'll hopefully get him on campus, maybe by himself. They have unlimited official visits. So maybe they'll get him by himself in July here. And just, I know there's a dead period too. So we got to figure out the timing of it. Who knows how they'll work it out. But this is someone that I'd be surprised if he doesn't make it to Miami. He's a major priority. He visited unofficially, and Jason Taylor went up there. Like, it's literally just a situation where a health situation intervened. There was no, there's not like advanced FAFSA situation where the schools are trying to discourage him from visiting. I think he'll get down here eventually, and he has a chance to be in the class. Just got to get him on campus.
So so more of an edge rusher is what you're saying for Miami?
I think so. Other schools like him at linebacker. You see him playing running back here. I mean, he's an overall athlete. He's from a small part of town. I mean, you look at the bleachers, not exactly the biggest facility here over in Wadley, Alabama. But I think edge rusher for Miami. Jason Taylor's the one that visited him when he went up in spring. So we'll see on that. But if you see him not here, don't freak out and worry about, hey, is this another cancellation at Auburn, throw a bag and I had to not visit? I don't think, from what I understand and what I'm told, there's nothing like that at all.
And then your last note in the bank here is that Brody Jennings, cornerback commit for Michigan, who recently visited Miami. The Canes are still trending good with him. Yeah. I think this is someone Miami believes is one of the best man cover corners in the country. Commit to Michigan. We just talked about Michigan, that they're pretty good evaluators of these kind of guys, these low 4 stars, and they know what they're looking for. They got this guy. Miami's going to have a chance to flip him. I think they will. I think if it wasn't for, the tragedy that hit his family right before his visit when his father passed away suddenly of a heart attack, I think he probably would have been a Cane already. That kind of thing throws everything for a loop. He's taken visits since then, including Miami. But I think Miami's still right there and with a chance to flip him and get that one done. And they'd love to. They think he's a great player. So that's the bank. D, let's talk about some of these guys who are going to be taking a visit.
Yeah, it's an interesting weekend. So there's a few guys I'll just roll through quick because we've talked about them a bunch. And then there's a few guys that we really haven't talked about. Figured to watch the film, kind of react, get the Peter instant reaction as well to these guys. But, just names that we know. Ben Congdon, commitment from Mineral City, Ohio, which I don't really know exactly where that is, but it's not exactly in the huge metropolitan area. But this is a guy who had Big Ten interest. Penn State was after him hard. He was a top wrestler in Ohio. I think he finished 6th in his first year wrestling heavyweight. And this is a guy that, is tall. He's 6'7". So you don't usually have guys 6'7", 6'8" that wrestle with that kind of leverage and flexibility and fluidity. So, I'm a big fan of this guy. I mean, we've gotten so many good linemen, Cantwell, Joel Irvin. I think our first guy that we loved was this guy. We did a whole show on this guy. Yeah, this is our guy that we love. So shout out to Ben Congdon. He did a solid commitment even after Big Ten schools like Penn State came after him. I think Alabama offered him as well. and he stayed true. So underrated guy. He's a 4-star now. I believe he's a composite 4-star. I know he's a 4-star. Yeah, he's 4-star on both sites at 90, number 27 offensive tackle in the country. So he is that. He's a blue chip player. Miami's lucky to have him. We talked about Jason Lopez in the bank. To me, a star player in my book. For me, this is a guy that we got to get. Javian Mallory also talked about that one, and in the bank that visited Alabama, I don't think was well received, and we'll see where this thing goes. But he's going to be on campus. He's a very good player. It's him and Jay Lamar kind of battling for that second running back spot. Derek Cooper's got a reservation right there at the top. Van Spafford, we talked about his situation, the wide receiver out of Mission Viejo, California, Orange County, speedy slot receiver. Reminds me of Tank Dell a little bit, who was very successful in Shannon Dawson's offense. Canceled his visit. Miami's trying to get him back on the schedule. We'll see. A lot of people thought he was going to flip to Miami this week, including people from other schools. So Miami needs to get him back on campus. We'll see if they can get that one done. Shari Charles, this is the last one of the kind of the older names, someone that we've talked about a bunch. 6'2", 230 defensive end from Venice, 4-star player, number 15 in the country. Explosive guy, great leverage, gets under guys. Visited at least once. I think he might have visited twice in spring. So he's coming back now for an official visit. Venice, not very far on the west coast of Florida. This is a player that Miami's been recruiting very, very hard, has been crystal ball to Miami, brings a lot to the table. Just a pure rusher that I love this, him playing running back. Venice is a big program that produces, Power 4 players every year. So him playing running back, that means they really trust him as an athlete. I like his leverage. I like his pop. Pete, I don't know what you think when you watch these clips, but I think this is a guy like a Malik Bryant that it's just going to be a good football player for you and help you win games.
Yeah, I think a bit different than a Malik Bryant just because he's already playing that pass rush position. And I think maybe at this point a bit twitchier than Malik Bryant. And look, I think that pass rush edge speed rush sort of spot here is going to be a very, look at that. I mean, it pops off tape. It's going to be a very important part of Coach Heatherman's defense here.
Yeah, I just love that speed to power this guy has.
Yeah.
He gets low. He's not the biggest guy, not the longest guy, but he's someone that can get under guys and push him back. It's boom, look at that. I'm sending the fullback to another dimension. So physicality, motor, a good program pedigree, twitch, highly rated player. This is a guy that Miami's been recruiting for a while for a reason. So we'll see how that one goes. We already talked about Jaquez Wilkes not being able to visit because of a family health emergency. I wouldn't read too much into that. This is a guy Miami is going to keep recruiting hard. But Pete, yeah, some new names here that I wanted to dive into. I don't know which one catches your attention first. There's at least 4 guys here that we really haven't spent a ton of time talking about that I wanted to dive in on.
Start with Nolan Wilson.
Yeah, Nolan Wilson visited this spring. So he's not been talked about a ton, from Picayune, Mississippi. Obviously, that's not exactly prime Miami country. Ole Miss, Auburn, Alabama, those are schools he's visited, kind of your standard SEC profile. But when you visit unofficially, you're in the game, right? That means the guy took his time to come all the way down here in the spring and had a good visit. Obviously, he's returning on an unofficial. But you watch the film, you can see why he has a lot of interest. He's long. He's explosive. He can get after it. 6'4", 250. That's the frame you want. I heard he did look good on his visit, like just walking around, he looked the part. And think about Jason Taylor. He's kind of similar size-wise to a Nolan Wilson, so you know what the pitch is going to be. A lot of ends in the picture, man. We talked about Wilkes coming eventually. Shari Charles coming this weekend. But this is just another name to add to the mix. And I think really the first step twitch and there's some tightness there. He doesn't finish as well as you'd like as far as like slowing down, changing directions. Oh, he did it right there. Boom. As I say that, you like to see a little more at finish there, but in terms of being a tall guy with twitch, I think this guy's pretty impressive.
Yep. Agreed. There was a name here that a couple names here that we haven't been, I don't think, very familiar with, starting with JJ Finch.
Yep. This is a name that from a big school in Indianapolis, Indiana, Warren Central, not the highest rated guy, high 3-star player, but you look at the visit list, Tennessee, Michigan, Alabama, Purdue, the local schools in there as well. So this is a guy that people like. I think he's just like a evaluation kind of guy. Defensive tackle, which is a position you're always scouring the world for because there's only so many guys with the body type. And I think you watch him and you see what the appeal is. He's going to put on weight. He's already got a nice, strong lower body. He has got good range to him. I can see this guy easily bulking up. Kind of reminds you of like a Simeon Barrow just looking at him. I think he's a little taller than Barrow. He's 6'3", 260.
It's the number 11.
There it is, man. Maybe that's what. No, Barrow's number 10. But yeah, you're close enough. But look at the athleticism here. Look at that interception, man. The big boy can move. You like the power. It's Indiana, but this is not like small school Indiana. This is a big school, big program that sends guys to the next level. He's always the first off the ball. Look at see what I like about that. Navigating traffic, lateral quickness, ball awareness. And then when he sees the ball carrier, he bends his knees and strikes. And a lot of these defensive tackles just kind of drag the ball carrier down. He can bend his knees and deliver a strike, which shows you his athleticism, his flexibility. This is good tape to me, man. I like the way he's moving. The only negative is he's not 300 right now, but I think a year in, when he fills up that upper body a little bit, you could see him being that kind of guy. He plays with power. You see him knock the ball loose right there. I don't know, P. I want to get your thoughts because to me, this is not something I spent a ton of time on. But when you watch the tape as a high 3-star, you could see why Tennessee, Michigan, Alabama are in on this one.
Yeah, gotta see how he would fit in the scheme for Coach Heatherman. Kind of see whose role he would play, so to speak. But obviously, someone who's a very productive player and is consistently in the backfield. But it's interesting, man, because we aren't seeing those big 300+ pound bodies consistently.
Yeah, we did the show with Lance Roffers yesterday, right, Pete? So they could check that out with Lance Roffers, really breaking down Heatherman's defense and what he looks for in these defensive tackles and really every position. And he talked about the nose. Forget the 3 technique or this. I guess we'll call him. It's not doesn't play a 3 technique. Let's call him the smaller defensive end in this scheme. The nose guard is trying to get upfield, get across the center's face, hop the gap, and just really make plays in the backfield, which is different than your typical two gapping plug who's just trying to be wide and strong and clog up that middle. This nose tackle is there to wreak havoc, to cause problems, and I think you can see a JJ Fitch fitting either there or in that other smaller position, whether it's the big defensive end, that field defensive end, or the defensive tackle that mirrors that field defensive end at times.
And then the next guy that I wanted to talk about is Duyan Forkpa, DQ.
Yeah, and again, here's the interesting thing. Michigan pops up again. Just visited Michigan last week. So you're seeing Miami's, I don't know if they're following Michigan's evals, but you do see Michigan's evals pop up here, which, I don't think it's a bad idea. Michigan's a pretty good program. But I asked about this guy because I just hadn't heard the name. I'm like, is this a real name or is this just a name that you're adding to the list? And then, no, this was a real name, and you see why. You watch his film, he can get off blocks. He's twitchy. North Carolina is in the mix, Michigan, Florida State, Florida. And he has speed. He's ran in the 11s in the 100 meters. You see the sideline to sideline speed here. Now at IMG, so he's getting coaching. Off-ball linebacker all the way. So, he has that ability. But
looks like he's got some thickness to him.
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's going to be someone who's going to need too much time to develop. He's originally from Georgia, by the way, Mill Creek. Visited Colorado as well, Florida State. So he's not a Florida guy. He's at IMG, he's a Georgia guy, but Southern guys, he can get off blocks there. This is a real target. They'll size him up. Malik Morris from Lakeland came on a visit, and I think they're around him, and they said, I don't know if this guy's going to be able to play here. It wasn't a situation where we moved forward with Malik Morris after his visit. J.J. Edwards, the opposite. He visited and we wanted him even more, and it looks like he's going to probably be in this class. We'll see where a Forkpa goes here, but I like the film. I see the vision. There's some tightness, but he's a real linebacker. He finds the ball. He gets off blocks. He plays hard. I don't know, P, what do you see with him?
Yeah, I mean, he's moving. He's a big boy. I wonder if they are still trying to figure out what they're really looking for a linebacker.
Yeah, it's a position that, it's not been great for the Canes since Shaq, and before Shaq, it wasn't great for the Canes for a while. So we'll see if they can get it right. I really like J.J. Edwards. I think that's the type of guy we need to get from a trait standpoint. This guy I need to really study more, but I know he's being coached up at IMG. I think Gavin Nix last year was a big loss from IMG, went to Oregon. That's one that's going to sting the Canes for a while. But we'll see if Forkbuck can get it done there. And I do like that, Edwards, the concern is you're putting weight on him. And one thing I've noticed, and Lance Roppers, we just talked about, did a study on this, where you looked at linebackers that made it and what they looked like in high school in their testing. And he found that linebackers are actually heavier than you'd think in high school, the ones that make it to the NFL, right? Everybody says, oh, you just get these safeties, you put weight on them and get them ready to go. But a lot of times the guys that make it at the next level, they're 220 plus in high school. Maybe they're a running back and they move or whatever it is. But a lot of these guys actually do have some size to them. So Edwards, you hope he gets that size. He has the speed. But it's nice to see a guy like Forkbuck where you don't have to worry about him adding the weight. He's got 225 pounds ready to work.
And then the last guy here, Devontae Anderson.
Yeah, intriguing local guy. This is, again, a newer name for me, but you recognize, boom, right there, what he brings to the table. These are Florida guys. This feels like the kind of guy that goes to like in Illinois. I know Illinois is not on his list. You see Maryland, Auburn, Rutgers, UCF, but Winter Garden, Florida, right there in Central Florida, good team, playoff team. This is the kind of guy that goes to like a Minnesota or Illinois, which, those schools aren't recruiting him. So maybe that's something to keep an eye on, but we've just seen so many of these guys succeed. And I like his speed. I like his physicality. I like his length. I don't think, I think Miami really is locked in at safety on the Blake Stewarts of the world. What's the kid, Pete, the other kid from Orlando, of a private school, Devin Jackson.
Jackson.
Guys like that. But this is someone who can play some corner, has some versatility. You see him there. He is listed, I believe, as a safety on 247. Actually, I think in fact listed as a corner. To me, he looks more like a safety, but I guess you could put him at corner. He's got length. So just a defensive back that I think they want to size up. You had Kosi Barnes, who's a similar body type, similar background, playing wide receiver and corner, that you saw him come on campus last week from Charlotte area. From Greensboro area. So this is another guy. I think they like the traits. They like the fact that he plays corner, plays wide receiver. In my view, I think safety makes some sense here. So they'll size them up and see what they got here. But can never have enough defensive backs, and you don't want to put all of your eggs in the Blake Stewart, Devin Jackson basket. Although I think Miami would love to have those two at safety, and then Brody Jennings as a corner to add to what they got already.
Yeah, D. When you and I go to these, 7-on-7 or Under Armour camps or whatever it may be, defensive back's always a position where we watch it and you're kind of just like, okay, this guy's got some length. He can run a little bit, offer that kid. He, and develop him. At receiver, you can kind of say, all right, well, he's really not polished. It's going to take some seasoning for him. But at defensive back, which is I think what you're seeing with a lot of these offers, get them in the building. If they've got some of these traits that we're talking about, coach them up and see if someone surprises you. OJ Frederic, as a 3-star, was someone who had a lot of these traits that they were looking for, and he's obviously shown his value early in his career. You watch OJ Frederic's highlights. He's playing wide receiver, right? Playing defensive back. You think about the safeties Miami's after. You just looked at Devontae Anderson playing corner, playing receiver, projects as a safety probably for Miami. Blake Stewart playing all over the field for his team up there in Atlanta. You look at Devin Jackson playing some wide receiver for his team in Orlando, Florida, also playing safety. So you want that versatility on top of the length and the size and the willingness to hit people, the instincts, all the things you look for at safety. I think versatility, not only to help your ball skills be able to go up and get the football and move around, but I think just in general, guys with instincts, which is the primary issue at safety, you got to have instincts.
they usually are able to make an impact on offense as well, because those instincts allow them to find the football, get open, and make plays on the offensive side of the ball. Ed Reed, Sean Taylor, Cam Kitchens wasn't, but he was definitely a return threat. So you want some safeties that can do things with the ball in their hands. And I think Devontae Anderson has some of that. They just want to size him up and see how he looks. And it could be a situation where after the visit, hey, we love Devontae Anderson, he's top of our board, or you just kind of quietly move on and say, hey, we saw him. We'll stick with the Blake Stewarts and the Devin Jacksons of the world. You don't really know until these guys get on campus and you get a good look at them.
So, D, before we wrap things up here, let's talk about some of our sponsors here.
Yeah, well, you want to wrap these guys up in gear when they come down. Make sure they're looking good when they go back to their hometowns. That's the Miami Hurricane Team Store, official apparel of the University of Miami, official retail provider of University of Miami Athletics. Miami Hurricane Team Store, MiamiHTS.com. You go there, use promo code INSIGHT20. Again, that's promo code INSIGHT20. You get 20% off your first item. Ed Reed, Sean Taylor, throwbacks from 2001. Who doesn't want those? You don't talk about safeties that can do stuff with the ball in their hands. But tons of items, men's, women's, youth, Adidas, hats, beach stuff, you name it. They got it at the Miami Hurricane Team Store. And we want to make sure we get some of these athletes before we even get gear on them. You got to go to CanesConnection.com/CIS. That's CanesConnection.com/CIS. That's the number one collective on the planet. It is our collective. You want to be part of the solution. You want to be part of the inside, the inner circle. You want to bring it in tight, be part of what's making a difference in getting these players. You got to go to CanesConnection.com/CIS. This is what's going to make the difference. It's not going to be complaining on a message board, although we love when you do that on CanesInsight.com, 7.44 million posts and counting. You gotta pay up if you want to get these guys. So join the team, CanesConnection.com/CIS.
All right. Well, excited to see what comes of this weekend, D. Every weekend it seems like there's new developments, some good, some bad, but we're starting to get a much clearer picture of what's happening in this recruiting class. So keep it locked on CanesInsight.com. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We'll see you guys soon. Go Canes.
See you soon.